días.
Hola. I see a lot of Northwest folks. Yay!
Buenos días. Buenos días.
Desde Norwest.
Bienvenidos a todos.
Hi,
Yeah.
Jenny O'Neill.
Mira, Tara.
A ver. Claudia, Ángel, Paula. Hey, Paula.
¿Qué tal, Leo? ¿Qué tal?
¿Cómo estás? Raquel, ¿todo bien? Tarita, Silvia, buenos días a todos. Yomar,
Hola.
buenos días.
Buenos días.
Oh, actually, I'm logging on twice. I don't think it was needed twice. But, all right.
So as you come in, if you could help us by putting in the chat, where introducing yourself, where you work, and cuáles cursos enseñan, what courses you teach, please. Last time we did this a little bit bilingually. So just be prepared for multiple languages.
Probably will again.
Yep. Mhm. Got Poolsville, Clarksburg,
Argyle Middle.
Lake. Northwest. Springbrook, wonderful. Wonderful. West. It's Orchard, Rockville, wonderful. Bienvenidos a todos.
Buenos días.
All right, Rockville. Oh. Okay, Paula, you want to get started?
Okay, let's do this. All right. So welcome. Bienvenidos a todos. Are we okay with Spanish, Spanglish, a little bit of Spanglish, a little bit of...
Los tres.
Los tres.
Lo que es solamente un cafecito, así que vamos a ver. Okay, so welcome to our PT this morning. We wanted to share with you a little bit of what we've been doing here at Einstein, and hopefully inspire a little bit of work and talk a little bit of some of the challenges that we've all had here with our Spanish for Spanish speaker courses. So first, to begin, Paula Peró, I'm a resource teacher here at Einstein High School. And over the last couple of years, we didn't list all the courses that we've taught, but we thought that the most relevant to the process and what we've been doing in the last couple of years. Claudia, you want to say hello?
Buenos días a todos, mi nombre es Claudia de León. Bueno, los últimos 2 o 3 años o más he enseñado SSS 1, SSS 2 y este año enseño SSS 3, que también es combinado no, pero es un curso similar, como van a ver, a IB Spanish 5.
Yo soy Jennifer O'Neill, yo soy la gringa que enseña SSS 1, SSS 2, and I also teach Spanish literacy. That doesn't function, as you'll find out, like the county has set it up for pre-SS. It's coded as pre-SSS, but we actually use our Spanish literacy course, and we'll explain this later, for our recent arrivals and students with interrupted education to provide some literacy skills that they might be missing in Spanish so that they can transfer those over into English later.
All right. So this process started a couple years ago and just talked about who our students were and what some of the challenges that we had in our classes, in our Spanish for Spanish speakers classes. Obviously, we know that I think everybody can agree that we have students in our SSS classes that have very different backgrounds, native, heritage, immersion, you know, huge variety of language and academic abilities. Also, we all know that we have a textbook that has not been supported or it's not even in print anymore. And the way that curriculum was created or that it was presented is more of just basic topics. You know, did you cover certain letters? Did you cover this and that? But we were missing a lot of the skills. Then we also felt that our students, we're a school that offers both AP and IB to our students. So we felt that they were they needed a lot more exposure to a variety of texts. So if you teach IB, you know, and if you're familiar with that curriculum, you know that they need to be able to create a lot of different texts as opposed to what AP students have to create. They also there were some gaps in like the cultural and historical context that we were presenting in the interpretation, going back to being able to analyze or interpret different types of texts and also what they were producing and the length of text that they were producing. So this was our process. We had the IB curriculum was changing, new assessments, and it gave us an opportunity to look back and look at our courses. We also introduced, we have close to 50% of our population is identify themselves as Latino and Hispanic. So we do have some students that their first language or their heritage speakers of Spanish. So testing them in language B for IB was not ideal. And by them testing language A for their IB diploma was also giving them an IB bilingual diploma, not just the seal of biliteracy, but it was also giving them IB bilingual diploma. So the first thing we did was we looked at all of the AP and IB themes. We try to match them up and see how they came together, which they do come together very easily. And I think our biggest aha moment for all, and I want you to think about your current students. I don't know what your pathway is, but our pathway, once again, APIB, and think if the students that were coming through SSS1, SSS2, SSS3, we're definitely not getting the same content or the same information. They were not getting the same skills that our students that are coming from Spanish 3, Spanish 4, Spanish 5 to AP were. Once again, based on the Español para Nosotros textbook. So that was the biggest, wait a minute, this is not right. We need to do something about it. And that's exactly what we did. So we took the year to map all these themes out on poster boards around the classroom during our department meetings. We mapped out the IPAs to try to match, to stay true to the IPAs and the SSS curriculum. And that's where we started mapping out and back mapping all of the different themes to give students a variety of themes throughout the year. You're gonna see all these resources in a little bit. We're gonna share these things with you. And we also looked at some of what content, what skills, what were some of the best practices that we were doing, what are some of the things that we were successful with in our classes, and to try to embed all of that, not just across all of our courses. So we wanted to, through this process, what did we do? We created a more equitable path for all of our SSS students. We also created stronger PLCs, because you will see how our, like our French 4 teacher will plan with our Spanish 4 teacher and Spanish for Spanish speakers 2 teacher. So now our teachers that for other languages with singletons, they collaborate, they work together, essentially teaching the same theme, and they're bouncing ideas of each other and creating stronger assessments. And it has really worked very well to support each other. And it really helped us through the pandemic and through being virtually. And all of this, of course, to continue to increase our CLF by literacy numbers. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so now this goes on to me. Let me switch over to. Okay, so I'm going to be talking to you about, well, if I click on this, will it open the articulation? Are you seeing it? Or do I need to share my screen?
They can see it now.
Okay, great.
I
right, so
can't
this
see
is-
anything. I'm sorry. I just see you.
Oh, that's because they're not in the near pod. So let me share my screen, I guess.
I can see your screen.
Yeah, it's on Paula's screen. She's one of the,
Yeah.
Yes, I
You can see the screen, right?
I can see the screen and the colleagues also.
You see the columns? Okay. There's someone who cannot?
Me.
you have to change your
me.
presenter mode. You have to change your view mode.
Okay,
Fine.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so the document we're looking at right now is our articulation, which covers all subject areas for our world languages department. We have it by level, but also, well, I'll start with, and Paula spoke about a lot of this already, but how we even began with this was really lots of backward mapping, so that we knew that there was a disconnect between what our students that were taking the SSS track had learned once they were in the AP course versus our students that were, levels 4, and 5, et cetera, IB. There's this huge disconnect, the jump from SSS 3 to AP. So we knew that we really needed to be more equitable in preparing them. And we saw an opportunity, as Paula said, to sort of look at the themes. We decided to see where there was overlap between AP, IB themes. They're very similar. Also, we at that point had the quarterly assessments for SSS, and we couldn't really mess around with those. So those had to be locked in. So that kind of helped us decide which themes we would do at which points. And then another thing we wanted to look at for all of those assessments is what skills, what content needed to be introduced and worked on. So here we have, and I think this is SSS 1. So we start with, really basic at SSS 1 level. They're able to talk about themselves. We start them just basic sentence structures and building upon what they've learned. But we know that they need much more access to different text types. So we make sure to include those in the different skills. We knew that there were gaps in like critical thinking, where our non-SSS courses had a lot more of that built in than our SSS classes did. So we have a lot more of that built into the skills. And then from one unit to the next, we build upon what they've learned previously, and also from one level to the next. So they will probably see a repeat of some of the same themes, but going more in depth, a repeat of some of the skills, which we want them to be, once they're ready for the exams, be they APIB, that they know this, they've already got this down. We also, sorry, drawing a blank. This also gives us an opportunity to see where we can differentiate, because we know that our SSS courses need to be slightly different. What they're bringing to the table in terms of vocabulary and the language background is very different to what our non-native speakers are. So we still have to make sure that we embed a lot of that differentiation. We don't explicitly have grammar built into anything, but as we need it and where it makes sense, we make sure to address that. I know that's a big worry for lots of people, but we do it in context. And then another, let's see. Oh, a big one where we saw that we were missing was historical context. And we made sure to start that off earlier in the lessons. I know with level 4, Spanish 4 and SSS2, it's a little bit heavy in history, but that does give them the context that they need to work with some of these texts to really understand the cultural context of what they will need for the different courses and the different tests. Let's see. And also, as Paula mentioned, this does definitely facilitate collaboration across languages. This made our online, having to go to online much more seamless because we already had sort of the bones of everything, and we're able to just sort of fill in the gaps, and we're able to, if anything happens, know what someone is going to be doing at some point during the year, and we all have a map and we're on the same page. So this has really worked out for us.
You mind if I say something real quick, Claudia?
Yeah.
So I think SSS2 is a great example of this because it is where Spanish 4 meets our SSS curriculum. And obviously we teach them in different ways, but we are exposing them to historical context that they will not get in their history classes. No one is going to teach about the dictatorships in Latin America and the role of the United States in human rights violations and those dictatorships in other courses. However, if they're going to read anything by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, it's going to come up. And so we needed to expose both classes to it. So the SSS curriculum would have them read an unmodified historical document, whereas obviously Spanish 4 we would change the document up with using of cognates and vocabulary introduction and provide a simplified version of the text. But then our French teachers would also be doing at the same time human rights violations, maybe in Senegal, and how that relates. So what it really offered us was this chance to discuss how are we going to teach this in a way? What are the historical aspects we need to bring up? What are the text types that relate to this? And it also allowed us to learn about what was happening in other countries. So this document is a working document too. We change it all the time, every unit. We're like, oh, actually that text didn't work out last time, or with the pandemic, we also had to change it. So this is a draft document and it's a living document. This is something that this is our blood, sweat, and tears, but it changes. It changes every single year.
And then I think I'm the next one as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me close that one
I
out.
think, Jenny, I think you might be up.
I'm next, yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the current practices that we use to teach these all these different skills. And because after we did the articulation, and that's really why we're doing it, we had to look at in each of the domains, what is it that all of our students in all of these levels need to be able to do, and how can we work smarter? What are ways in which that we can create documents and practices that get used across levels, and then we could modify up and down. So for speaking, we realized that they really need an upper level courses to be able to provide details, make connections to themes, and justify themselves. And so we listed out all the classroom practices that you can see on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side, that they would need to be able to do. So we realized that every year they needed time speaking. Every year they needed to do debate. Every year they needed to have spontaneous dialogues. With listening, we realized that they needed to be able to hear any kind of source, identify the main idea and the details, and be able to make inferences just from listening it. So we started to make sure that we introduced different types of listening sources on a weekly basis, and that we developed a strategy to help them to note take for each of those different types of listening sources. For reading, this is a big issue, particularly for our SSS students. We needed them to really look closely at a text in Spanish. A lot of our students are good translators about home vocabulary, health vocabulary, but reading a text closely in their native language and looking at the details and the analyzing aspects of it is something that they're not exposed to. And so we needed to add that into the curriculum. And so we came up with a series of strategies. One you can see is called PERA, which is our paraphrasing acronym, so that they could get used and prepare to using the same strategy year after year to prepare for writing more in-depth documents, but also to be able to analyze these texts for the upper level AP and IB courses. For writing, we passed right over that. For writing, we made a list of the breadth of genres that they needed to be comfortable with. And then we started to look at when they needed to be exposed to them in order and how many times. And so we kind of created like a cycle. So they see like an email, they write a biography more than once, they write a formal letter more than once, so that if they get to that AP or IB test and they are asked to produce a text, they can look at whatever the list of text type options they are, and they have had experience at more than once writing that type of text type. And then we also thought about how they would need to do that every single day. And we're going to show you some of these classroom practices in a second, that so that you can see that this is something that they do weekly and yearly. So here are a couple of things that we do every single week. We follow a standardized protocol for warm-ups. Mondays are for speaking. They get a prompt and 2 minutes to prepare what they want to say. And then we ask the class to share about it. Tuesdays are for free voluntary reading. Every single one of our classrooms now has a library of text in Spanish that are leveled by Lexile and by interest. So some of them are low Lexile but high interest texts, and some of them are translations of high interest books, and some of them are texts that are modified classics from Spain also. And they read, as they continue with the same book until they finish it. They get to choose that book and they read in silence as warm-up. Wednesdays are for listening comprehension. Thursdays are for open-ended questions, some of which are serious and some of which are not. Some of them are like, which Kardashian is the worst Kardashian for humanity? You have 4 minutes to produce 60 words to justify your opinion. And Fridays are fun days, or sometimes we use that as a quick grammar review. We have, Claudia, this is you talking about assessments. Go ahead.
Okay, and I'll just like back off of what you said.
Please.
But what I do love about everything that we've created, we have so much liberty still to do what we want in terms of our planning. We know that we need to do certain themes. There's certain skills that we need to touch on, but it gives the children, the students, that like continuity. It gives them, they already know the process. They know that going from one class to another, that they're going to get the same like quality of content. So I think that's definitely made things easier for them as well as for us in our planning. If we have to switch from one year to another, it's been great. And then, so now I'm going into some of the materials we'll be sharing with you. Actually, this will be sample assessments, which are included in what we will be sharing. So for our assessments, we have included a few samples of some writing assessments. I do in one of my units for globalization, we do a persuasive, it's supposed to be a persuasive essay, but we modified it and made it a persuasive speech. So you will see all of the different texts that I included. I give them option to choose things. There's lots of built-in organizers and sentence starters to help them get from point A to point B. So we're really supporting the students through this process and then slowly taking those supports away. I also included an art critique pre-writing organizer. And again, they got the option of choosing which artwork they were going to critique, and then also a peer review checklist for the same assignment so that they could go through and not only check their own work, but look at their peers' work. And it's just like a great process for them to see how their work will be assessed and also look at a variety of other assignments. Some additional graphic organizers. The IB picture oral is a big component of the exam. So we try to practice that and incorporate that a lot. So I have one that is for a specific unit on experiencias. And I have like the pictures in there that I included. And I broke down the questions because at the beginning, when you first introduce the process, they don't really get it and they need a little bit more structure, like do this, A, B, C, answer these questions. So I've included that. And then I have just a standard one that you could adapt to any unit. And we do lots of project-based assessments. One that I just finished, which is a great preparation for the AP cultural comparison, where they have to be able to compare different aspects of their own culture with that of a specific Spanish-speaking country. I had them create websites. I should have included an example of one that they just did, but they did a great job. So that will be there as well. And then Jenny and I worked on and love this SSS1 project where we had to, really learn about civilization. What is it? And then the final product was they got to design their own civilization. It's been modified a little bit this year. I think Jenny added some additional fun aspects. They think it's like war against each other, but it's great. They love it. And then for our next set, okay, some additional resources that will be in the folder. I think we have a snapshot of how we organize our common folders, and those are shared. We can all access the work that is done anywhere within the department. We have our AHS articulation document that I showed you. We have a paper or I did an electronic version of warm-up sheets. So they have for each day of the week, they'll be doing speaking for each of the skills that they're working on, a space to complete their work. An example of an annotation poster that we do common annotations. We use the same colors and codes across the different levels, different difficulty once they start getting into other skills, but that way they have some continuity there. Locura de Marzo, which probably Paula and Jenny can talk to you about more, and has been really fun for the students, but that's all based on music, this huge competition like March Madness, which we definitely borrowed from someone else. Objectives templates. This is an amazing document. It really helps us plan our objectives, the different assessments that we're going to do. It's a dense document, but it has really helped us stay on task. Phrases for speaking prompts and diálogos poderosos. I don't know if Jenny and Paula want to say anything more about diálogos poderosos.
It's
The
really just a
speaking dialogue.
structure and requirement for how we get them to elevate their speaking in terms of the depth of speaking and which phrases to avoid and which phrases we would like them to use. So you are welcome to look at any of these documents. They're all view only. Obviously, you can copy them into your own folders. And we hope that you both use them and also give us feedback on it. One thing that we haven't put in here, but we are also happy to share, I don't think it's in here, Paula, you can correct me, is our book list. We have pretty big classroom libraries. We don't have a picture in this presentation. Maybe we should do that for next time, but there are more books in Spanish in our personal classroom libraries than there are in our actual school library. And it took several years of Paula being a master of getting funds from everywhere, but they're labeled by genre. And so students also are exposed to what genres look like in Spanish as well.
I think we might have a few minutes for Q&A, I guess 2 minutes. But I will be sharing the list of books with the RTs this summer. So that might be something that they wanna, if you wanna slowly get started on adding that. Now, I will say this, we didn't do it last time, but maybe we'll pause and take a picture. I wanna take a picture before those of you that feel comfortable taking a picture. So I'm gonna pause the recording so we don't